Hello and welcome. Today we'll be discussing moving payroll to the cloud, best practices for a low-stress, high-return move to the cloud. My name is Chris Haddon. I'll be today's presenter. I'm a certified payroll professional here at Greenshades Software, the Vice President of Revenue Strategy and Operations. Been fortunate enough to be here for over a dozen years now, and I've seen a lot of exciting changes over the years, seen a lot of growth over the years, and certainly consider myself fortunate on a daily basis. So today's agenda, we're going to be discussing really these four main things here. The risks and limitations of kind of an all-in-one ERP plus payroll approach. We'll be discussing the advantages of using a standalone payroll offering, the benefits of moving payroll to the cloud, and finally we'll wrap up with the top 5 traits of a cloud-based provider. So to start with, just the general discussion of moving to the cloud. Arguably, this is a debate that's been going on for a while, but it's arguably a debate that's kind of over at this point when we're talking about, do we have an on-prem solution or do we move to the cloud, right? There are plenty of people that are still using an on-prem solution for a variety of reasons, but the debate about, hey, when we make a change or we upgrade, are we going to go to the cloud, are we going to do another on-prem solution, that debate is largely over. This had been happening anyways, right? There's been a lot of acceleration that was taking place, but really the last 2 years, in large part due to COVID, when we talk about the workforce shifting so drastically and dramatically so quickly, there was obviously so many people that went remote. And so, for a variety of reasons, when we're discussing moving to the cloud at this point, when we're looking at accessibility to data, security of data, having the opportunity to balance that usability and scalability and affordability and really kind of help create your own path, your own solution along the ways. There's a lot of advantages that we are really looking at when we are moving to the cloud. Okay, so what are the advantages of a standalone payroll offering, right? So when we're talking about kind of that ERP plus payroll approach versus having ERP separate from payroll, this is really what we're talking about. When we're talking about a standalone payroll solution, we're talking about a payroll solution that works kind of independently of our ERP. So big picture, kind of the general takeaway here is that when we do decouple that payroll and ERP approach, this gives us a lot more flexibility. It allows us to scale and make changes more rapidly and kind of independent of other aspects of the business than we're looking at when we have that coupled approach. So really, you're getting kind of the best of both worlds with this approach because you still have that centralized resource with that localized functionality. When we're talking about a cloud-based solution, you have an offering that's really purpose-built to be payroll in the cloud. So from a security standpoint, that's well thought out and well architected. The accessibility of this, again, this has been a big discussion since the start of COVID, but it's always available, right? You can access this anytime, anywhere, from any device, kind of these things that organizations are just expecting at this point. And within that organization, when you talk about employee self-service and sort of what the expectation of employees are today, this is something that has shifted a lot, really a lot in the last couple of years. It doesn't take much right now to watch the news or read some reports and you're hearing about the Great Resignation and the unemployment rates, but then also the number of people that are kind of intentionally staying out of the market in some cases and kind of rethinking their careers. So we've had a lot of employees throughout the country who first were laid off, and then now they have the opportunity to work again, but they're kind of resetting and thinking through things differently. We have employees who have stuck with the same employer through COVID, and now they're ready to reset and go elsewhere. So at this point we're in an environment where frankly it's difficult to hire, and it's also difficult to retain the right employees. So ensuring that you have a payroll platform that is very employee-centric and is very focused on empowering your employees, this is going to make a difference, right? When you can have a great kind of onboarding experience for new hires from day one, or have an environment where employees can access information on company benefits and plans and offerings at any time from a mobile device. I mean, these things are certainly very important to employees and perhaps even just kind of table stakes at this point. This is just kind of the baseline expectation based on the world that we live in right now. And then finally, compliance. So when we're talking about looking at a payroll platform that is a dedicated payroll platform that is focused specifically on payroll and kind of everything around that within that employee lifecycle, HR and taxes, this is an advantage over a solution that's really trying to solve for everything. So when you're dealing with a standalone payroll offering, it can be focused so heavily on compliance and really those areas that matter the most around payroll and taxes and HR. So once you've made the decision to move to the cloud, or as you're exploring different opportunities with different partners on looking to move to the cloud, there's some things to keep in mind. So we put together this checklist here. Let's talk through these one by one. So number one, experience and expertise, right? This is something that cannot really be understated. This is something that takes time. Frankly, it can't just be bought. It doesn't matter how cool the software looks or how modern and how great the technology is and everything else. There are human beings that are powering that software, and those human beings need to have years of experience. Payroll is complicated, no doubt about it. It's incredibly complicated, and so you need to ensure that you're working with a partner that has kind of been there, done that, right? They have the best practices understood. They've seen regulatory changes over the years. Because of that, they know how to adapt, whether it's from regulatory changes that happened 15 years ago or 10 years ago or 5 years ago. Every time an organization has to rapidly respond to that, it's an opportunity for them to learn. And so it's important to focus on organizations that have had that opportunity to learn over the years. Now, number two, track record of innovation. So technology, of course, is ever changing, but not just the technology, payroll, HR, expectations for employees. All of these things are continuously changing, and it's very important that when you're looking at partnering with an organization, you're ensuring that that organization is willing to adapt, is willing to grow, is willing to change, is willing to accept that sometimes, hey, we may be doing things wrong. We need to make an adjustment, right? And not just continue to do things the way that we've been doing things the last 20 years or whatever it might be. So not only do you need to partner with an organization that has experience, but along with that experience, you have to ensure that there isn't a bit of a complacency that comes along with that. And they're continuing to drive their product portfolio forward and continuing to drive that strategy to match the overall market and ultimately to ensure that you can have the best possible experience and migration when moving to the cloud. Now, certainly, along with the things that we've discussed so far, security has to be an incredibly important one, and it has to be something that you would have on your checklist. When we're looking at moving to the cloud, from a security standpoint, things can be different, right? An on-prem solution, even though it may be connected to web-based third-party kind of applications, right? There's an internet connection. There's not many on-prem solutions these days that don't have some kind of active internet connection. But it's a different level when you're looking at cloud from a security perspective. That being said, we're not in the same world that we were in 10 years ago or 15 years ago or 20 years ago when you're talking about internet-based applications and cloud-based solutions and a concern that, well, maybe security is not top of mind. Now, you don't want to take it for granted. You don't want to make an assumption that an organization, because they have been around for some time, or because you've heard of them before, because they have a cloud solution, that, okay, surely they must care about security. You can validate that. And one of the ways to validate that is through SOC 2, type 2 validation. It's a certification process, third-party audit, really, that's taking place by, again, third-party and outside organizations to come in and really test out the security measures that these organizations have in place. And I've been exposed to this firsthand at Greenshades and been involved in these, and it's an incredibly rigorous process. So that's a really important thing to think about and to focus on in these conversations, and make sure that when you're having these discussions with organizations, you're asking for the proof. Now, superior support, right? This is something I feel like my wife and I talk about this in non-work capacities on a regular basis. Sometimes, outright complaining about the lack of support that you get sometimes, especially from software organizations. It seems so difficult sometimes to just get a phone number for someone. You're going through all these different workflows and these automated chats and this and that, which sometimes can be incredibly helpful. But sometimes you just need to talk to a human being. You need to be able to email someone. You need to be able to pick up the phone and call someone and know that they can answer, and know that you have an organization that has your best interest in mind and is ready to do kind of whatever it takes to take care of you. And I believe this is more, than just having documentation, right? It's more than just having some help guides on the website. It's about being able to contact another human being as a human being and say, hey, I've got this issue, or I have this situation, I have this scenario that I need to solve for. I need to set up the software to accommodate, and I'm not really sure how to go about doing that. This is where the support matters so much, because if you set it up wrong, or if you don't know what to do and you just kind of wing it and you get it wrong, there's liability there. There's real negative consequences that can come about from that. And so it's important to partner with an organization that does have superior support. And finally, number 5, this kind of wraps all of these together, these points that we've talked about, and that's compliance. So ensure that you're working with an organization that is full of compliance experts. There are, again, as mentioned earlier, around the security component and support component, there are human beings that are powering these organizations, and it's a culture of compliance that you're looking for. You're looking to partner with organizations that truly care about compliance and are focused on compliance, and I would say are really interested in compliance. There's plenty of things when it comes to compliance and tax law that maybe aren't the most exciting things ever. I frankly find them a little bit exciting. We have many people here at Greenshades that feel the same way, but I understand it. These things aren't the most exciting things and the coolest things to be talking about, but compliance is key, right? At the end of the day, we want to make sure that we're paying our employees accurately. We're wanting to make sure that we follow all tax and withholding guidelines accurately. We want to make sure that these taxes are reported accurately and timely. And if they're not, that's a significant impact, right? Don't pay your employees, that's a big deal. Not only from a regulatory standpoint, but also kind of hard to keep those employees continuing to work for your organization, but certainly from a regulation standpoint as well. And so compliance is absolutely something that should be really top of mind as you're going into a search for a new partner. So we've talked about at this point, some of the kind of key things to keep in mind when you're looking for a new payroll partner. Before we move into the live Q&A portion of today's discussion, just want to highlight a couple things here about Greenshades. I mentioned that I've been here, going on 13 years at this point, and it's been an incredibly fun ride. I've had an amazing opportunity to work with fantastic people over the years. And some of the most fantastic people that I've had an opportunity to work with over the years have been our customers, right? We've got over 35,000 corporate entities using our platform. And this is representing 2.7 million employees that are being serviced through the platform. Huge numbers coming through, and it's an opportunity for us every day to have a huge impact on not only the industry, but also just on real human beings every day, helping to ensure that employees get paid helping employees to be able to get their tax documentation, right? So they can submit their file their income taxes at the end of the year. All of these things matter, and all of these things continue to drive us forward as a business. And I think that shows in our Net Promoter Scores, right? When we reach out to our clients, we ask them for feedback. They love working with Greenshades. They love working with our support team. They love the solutions that our products can bring to the table and the problems that we can help these clients solve on a regular basis. And so we have very high NPS scores. I mean, 55.6 is the note there on our screen right now. And, I mean, this is something that makes me very proud and fortunate to work at Greenshades. So just a real world example. Here's a quote that we'll let you read through on the screen right now. But again, this is an opportunity for me, and it continues to drive me forward on a daily basis to make a real impact on companies, to help them get their employees paid, and to help allow them to focus on things that are a little bit more strategic or a little bit more enjoyable than just kind of manual, tedious tasks. And that's one of the things that we are proud to be able to help with along the way. So wrapping up, just to recap again before we jump into the live Q&A, decoupling the ERP and the payroll platform is empowering. It allows you to take kind of a new and focused and more strategic approach when it comes to payroll. There's versatility and security that comes along with moving to the cloud. There's a lot of partners out there in the market. There's a lot of, frankly, competitors to Greenshades. There's a lot of people that are advertising on a daily basis that, hey, we have a payroll solution, we can help you get your employees paid. Not all payroll platforms and providers are equal, so very important to do your homework. Reference that checklist that we brought up earlier, and ensure that these are things that are driving these organizations forward, and to ensure these are things that they equally feel passionate about. And then finally, ensuring that you're focused on a platform that will really keep you on kind of the right side of the regulations. So when we're talking about compliance, the importance of that, but again, the human importance of that too, right? You don't pay an employee timely. Not only does, of course, that impact us from a regulatory standpoint, but we're not paying a human being, right? There's a human being that's not getting a paycheck or not getting an accurate paycheck, which can cause all sorts of downstream impacts. And so ensuring that you have a compliance first organization, and an organization that truly believes in an empowered workforce and empowered employees, and knows that, hey, by helping your employees have a better experience every day and managing their HR needs and ensuring that they get paid timely, it's going to make them not only a better worker for your business, but it's also going to keep them on your team longer, and it's going to make their lives better, right? On a daily basis, they'll have one less thing to be worried about. So thank you so much for your time so far, and let me talk a little bit more about considerations to keep in mind when moving payroll to the cloud. We've got our contact information shared on the screen right now, and then now we're going to pivot, and we're going to have some live Q&A. So look forward to answering some questions.
We have Chris here. I'm just going to read off some questions and watch the chat, see if we have any questions come in. But if not, Chris and I will kind of talk about common questions that he and I get kind of through the sales process and even the post-sale process. So for those of you who don't know, I'm Rob Bright. I'm the VP of Sales here at Greenshades Software. Chris is our RevOps VP as well, and we've both been at Greenshades a little over a decade. And Chris is actually a certified payroll professional. So when he talks about compliance, he's talking from the seat of somebody who studies compliance and cares a lot about it for our organization as well as personally. So just some common questions. I know you and I both get, Chris. Does Greenshades integrate with any specific system? I know obviously we're in the Dynamics GP channel here in DynamicsCon, but there's a lot of other Dynamics lines today, and I know that's a common question we both get. So can you kind of expand on that a little bit from the Greenshades perspective?
Yeah, certainly so, and thanks everybody for joining our session today. So Yeah, so I mean, basically, certainly as Rob mentioned, I mean, within the Microsoft space from an ERP perspective, absolutely a lot of integration components there when we're talking about kind of consuming information initially, be it employee data, for example, if you're running payroll today within Microsoft Dynamics, as far as importing current and historical data, we absolutely can pull all that data out of Microsoft directly. But then kind of thinking more broadly, right, just when you're utilizing Greenshades from a kind of payroll and HR platform, thinking about the overall employee experience end to end, kind of pre-hire to retire. One of the things that is really important to us and that we realized quite early on is that it's, you can't be an expert in everything, right? And so payroll, taxes, compliance, that's absolutely something that we specialize in and is truly something, as I mentioned a few minutes ago and what everybody just saw, it is something that that we are quite passionate about and enjoy quite thoroughly. But solving for the overall employee experience is more than just getting the employee paid. There's a lot that kind of goes into that process. But when you think about the pre-hire process from an applicant, right, a lot of people looking for new jobs right now, a lot of candidates in the market. And so on the pre-hire stage, we partner with an organization called Jazz HR, kind of a best of breed solution when it comes to applicant tracking. So if you're utilizing Jazz HR today, being able to pull in candidate data into Greenshades directly, that's something that we do have. Certainly there's a lot of other applicant tracking systems out there today. So speaking more generically as well, there's a variety of different ways to kind of consume candidate data. And obviously if you're not using an applicant tracking system, that's no problem at all. You can, of course, onboard the employees directly into the employee portal. But then, kind of once the candidate's hired, once they're an employee for your organization, just really keeping the employees engaged and really empowered throughout their employment. One of the really challenging things going on right now in the space is just keeping our employees engaged, keeping them at our company, frankly, and not losing them to our competitors or to many companies out there that are hiring folks. And so we have partnerships with a learning management platform called LearnUpon. So when you're talking about building your employees up and keeping them engaged and allowing them to kind of add to their careers and to their resumes while staying employed at your organization, we work directly with them. So that way, when you have the full kind of employee self-service experience through Greenshades, you have the opportunity to have real-time learning take place in this platform. So any kind of required coursework that you may have. So this is something that certainly can happen in that onboarding process for your new hires. But again, it's not just about hiring new employees. We want to make sure that we're continuing to upskill our workers. And so we do that through a partnership with LearnUpon, just to mention one. And then another one that comes to mind is a company called Branch, which they really specialize in getting workers paid who maybe don't have traditional checking accounts, maybe are unbanked employees today. So it's been really popular in this space within payroll, especially talking about digital pay cards and alternative payment methods. That is absolutely something that's offered through Branch, but thinking a little bit more broadly, especially if you have a workforce that has employees that again are unbanked today. Right, there's a lot of cost and compliance burden that comes along with issuing paper checks, and so we partner with an organization again called Branch that allows for employees to actually get digital bank accounts. Application process is like 2 minutes, directly integrated with the platform, and then working towards earned wage access as well, which is another really kind of heavy need right now in the space. Again, especially talking about keeping your workers engaged and keeping them kind of employed with the organization, and then also when you're recruiting new people, really being able to promote same day pay and things of that sort. It gives really becomes a selling point. And so those are really things that we're focused on heavily right now. Again, beyond kind of the traditional integrations, which we certainly have, which are critical. But thinking more broadly, there's a variety of integrations that we have, and certainly more than that as well. But that's a few that come to mind initially.
Thanks, Chris. And just on the ERP side, just to kind of list a little bit of those, obviously we integrate with all of the legacy Dynamics on-premise products like Dynamics GP, SL, AX, and can import historical data into our payroll piece. And then obviously, as we move forward, Dynamics Business Central and F&O, the D365 brands, both of those we have working integrations for on the general ledger side. And I think we had a question related to that if we post back any journal entries. So that's the answer to it is yes, we do have those ERP integrations specific to the general ledger or the GL downsync post payroll. One more question we got in the chat, Chris, just asking about time card capture. So can you talk a little bit about Greenshades time abilities and ability to import time as well as our actual timepiece as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So clearly, in order to get employees paid, we have to be aware of their hours, absolutely. And so there's a variety of different methods that are available. So if you're using a kind of a standalone time and attendance system, there's a variety of ways to import that data into Greenshades to consume that data. But then directly kind of baked into Greenshades, into the platform, is the ability to collect hours from your hourly workers directly. So whether that's through mobile app, through mobile entry, or if they're kind of industry or warehouse type workers having a physical station for them to go and clock in. We have a kiosk that's available, and then of course through the employee self-service portal, they have the opportunities to clock in. And so depending on whether it's a punch in, punch out, or hey, I worked 8 hours today, or I worked 40 hours this week, or however you need to collect those hours from your employees, you have a variety of methods of collecting those, be it directly in Greenshades or through an external solution that you may be using today, a variety of ways to import that data in, again, ultimately to get those employees paid accurately and timely.
Great, thank you. And we just got a couple minutes left. Just one very common question I think that we run into quite a bit is just kind of what does the implementation and kind of go live experience look like through Greenshades?
Yeah, so I think one of the things to keep in mind that we learned early on, right? Greenshades has been around for 20 years now, and having flexibility is going to be critical. So that's both in the timing of the implementation, but then also the support that you receive from Greenshades. So unlimited support, no cost implementation, right? Those are all things that we believe very strongly that when you partner with an organization, we should never be charging you for picking up the phone and calling us. And so we're always going to be here to assist with that, but also just around the timing of everything. If you think about maybe a legacy system of always trying to benchmark, okay, go live January 1st, or maybe the first of the quarter. Certainly ideal state, sure, that's great to be able to go live on the first of the year or whatnot. But the reality of the situation is businesses need to make decisions and implementation timeframes that match nicely and align with their business needs. And so we have a variety of ways to kind of consume year-to-date data, quarter-to-date, month-to-date data. So when you think about compliance and tax reporting, we're aware of kind of what those needs are. And so we have opportunities to consume that data, that historical data, whether that's coming directly from GP Payroll, for example, or maybe you're outsourcing today. There's different methods that we have of consuming that data to try to allow that implementation timeline to stay compliant, but also align with with the overall needs of the business and your availability during the implementation process.
Great. Thank you so much. And just as we get towards the end of the segment, thank you again to Liz and team for putting on DynamicsCon and helping us out spread this message, as well as helping us learn and stay in touch with the Dynamics channel in general. So thank you, Chris, for putting on this webinar, and everybody who asked questions in the chat. If anybody has any other questions for Greenshades, feel free to check out our booth. And if you take a meeting with us today, you're entered to get a $50 Amazon gift card. So if you have any questions or you want to meet with Greenshades quickly about any of this moving to the cloud payroll piece, we're here for you, and you can also get a quick gift card for taking a meeting with us. So thank you, guys. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, everybody.